Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Memory Hole. Welcome back to the show, September 18th, 2022. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about the weapons of the future. More specifically, the weapons of the future being likely quiet weapons, silent. We're talking about microwave weapons, directed energy weapons, and other beam energy type weapons that weaponize essentially the electromagnetic spectrum and electromagnetic fields. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be a scientist or a professional in this field, but I found some documents, guys. And these documents are pretty mind-blowing. They are a mixture of one of these documents comes from the CIA, the other comes from the Defense Intelligence Agency, and what they're discussing is electromagnetic radiation at certain frequencies, at certain rates, and how it affects the biological functions of man. Now, you have to understand that the sort of electromagnetic pollution of the world, right? You can't see it, but it is all over the air, whether it's the airwaves, the radio waves, right? Anything electronic, your cell phones are giving off these waves. They're just not visible. They're not part of the visible spectrum. We can't see them, and yet they're floating around our body and mind at all times. Now, the question is, do they have any ongoing physical effects, side effects, bad things to the human body? Now, for a long time, they've said cell phones do not, right? There used to be, and still is, a debate as to whether cell phones and other similar technologies, laptops, for instance, whether they can cause cancers and have carcinogen carcinogenic effects, right? For instance, people talking about the growth of tumors after, holding a phone up to your ear for X, Y, and, prolonged periods of time, or, sort of like a laptop, you're saying with a laptop on your lap, and unfortunately the laptop, electromagnetic, whatever, ends up giving you testicular cancer, right? So there's a debate in these fields. Now, it's widely known that although these do give off a decent amount, it is below the threshold of what is widely considered by like the FCC, other governmental bodies, health bodies, etc. It is below cell phones, laptops, etc. Wi-Fi are below the threshold of what would be considered to be damaging to the human body. Now, of course, that is something that we should probably double check and look into. What is that based on, right? Because we're in a way kind of screwed if this does indeed cause any type of ailments just based on the pure saturation of almost every square foot of the United States with these waves, with these frequencies, with this electromagnetic radiation, this pollution, these electromagnetic fields. So guys, like, share, and subscribe. I need your help, okay? Help me get back in the game here. Rockfin.com/MemoryHold. That's the main HQ. All my premium content is up there. $9.99 a month will unlock not just my content, but everyone else's premium content as well. So once more, rockfin.com/MemoryHold. Just make a free account. If you have an iPhone, if you have a whatever, just download the app. The app is really smooth. It's nice. BitChute.com/MemoryHold. That's HQ number 2. All right, so those are the two main guys you want to go to. I did make a new YouTube channel. That's MemoryHold 5.0. When you search that, you're going to see 2 results for me. I actually made 2 channels. Doesn't matter, just subscribe to both of them. Ideally, though, the one I'll be using is number 1, the one that has videos, and number 2, I think the one with the most subscribers. So just subscribe to both of them. I'll be uploading the safer parts of my catalog to the YouTube channel, and maybe some other things that aren't entirely related to the subject matter we usually cover here. We'll have some fun just to see how long. I like to challenge myself, see how long we can stay on YouTube. Also, guys, lastly, if you want to support the show monetarily, if you want to throw me a tip, it's you guys that keeps it going. For real, all the money is dedicated to the show. PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. Where's this at here? There it is. There it is. Cash App is MemoryHold. Venmo's at MemoryHold. PayPal, you can go to paypal.me/MemoryHold7707. You can subscribe to the Patreon if you want. That also unlocks the premium content, exclusive content of mine. Anniversary of 9/11 just passed. I do have some pretty good 9/11 analyses with the Israeli connection there and analysis of that connection up there. It's probably about, I don't know, hour and a half to 2 hours. It's really good stuff. So yeah, guys, go check it out. But Rockfin specifically, and please share this video, guys. So with all that said, let's get started. Let's get discussing invisible weapons, silent weapons, quiet weapons, floating through the sky that you cannot perceive with the naked eye, and possibly cooking you from the inside.
You gotta know the truth, because the truth will set you free. I'm 100% sensitive to get you to the only heaven there is, a planet out there. This night will be a very significant night. It needs to be weighed by every leader.
Somebody's gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it. So if you don't like this, you better get out while you can, or I'll lay you on your ass.
Real G-funk to a gangster beat, it's so sweet. Getting hit with the motherfucking real.
We're going to have to dreamy-eye together, or we're going to get blowed up together.
If you've got any health in your body, I put it there. If you have life instead of death, it was I that gave it to you. If you have salvation, I brought it. So if I created the words, I can damn well use them.
Real G-funk to a gangster beat, it's so sweet.
All right. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you for joining me today, whatever time it is that you're watching. All right, so let's start right up. I'm going to try and keep this as brief as possible, and I'm essentially just going to be reading verbatim from this document just because I think it's important. All right, so this is actually from ARPA. We've got this is from 1966, December 15th, 1966, the Advanced Research Projects Agency, the big boys, the innovators, the cutting-edge exotic technology creators, right? The driving force of technological innovation within the military-industrial complex, the ones making this new mRNA type of technology to be the primary overlaying technology used to combat different medical ailments, right? That's them. And all the way back in 1966, what were they talking about? Well, they were talking about some crazy fucking shit. Just listen to this, and let me make my webcam smaller. As much as you guys like looking at my face. All right, check this, guys. Verbatim. It's all right here. You can read it yourself. Memorandum for the Directive ARPA. Subject, Project Pandora. Part 1, background. In excess of 5 years, the American Embassy in Moscow has been radiated with low-level electromagnetic signals, the Moscow signal, in other words, on a more or less continuous basis. These signals in the S and L band spectrum have been of complex modulation with seemingly random variations. The White House has been directed through USIB that intensive investigative research be conducted within the State Department, the CIA, and the Department of Defense to attempt to determine what the actual threat is and stop it. The national program has been coordinated by the State Department under codename TUHS. I don't know what the fuck that says. It's kind of blurry. TUFIS? TUHS. ARPA is representative and is conducting research on a selective portion of the overall program concerned with one of the potential threats, that of the effects of low-level electromagnetic radiation on man. All right, so now we've got DARPA in the mix investigating how does electromagnetic radiation affect man, if at all. Like I said, the general consensus is for things like tablets, laptops, cell phones, they say that it's not enough to do any damage, but then other people disagree. It's a point of contention still to this day, and now with the advent of different technologies, I can't even say, but it starts with the number 5, right? You know, the conversation has recently come back up, and it really does make you wonder how set in stone the science is on this, you know? So looking back at documents like this, it's very interesting that how deeply this was considered, but then how little they actually resolved of it. That's the one thing you see when you start looking into research into electromagnetic radiation, the offensive tactics of electromagnetic radiation, like the weaponization of it, using it as a weapons application, a weapons platform. They might go deep at the beginning, interested sometime. I think it looked like they were most interested in the 1960s, but then it just tapers off with no real, I don't know, resolution or solution. There's a lot outstanding, up for grabs, where the science can change. And I really would not be surprised if the science does change and it ends up that, some things that we believe are entirely not harmful at all today, something like the cell phone, although not like that, but something that Wi-Fi, maybe Wi-Fi ends up being more damaging to your body than initially considered or thought to be the case, right? Something like that. I just would not be surprised. Anyway, yeah, so ARPA is investigating the effects of low-level electromagnetic radiation on man. Now, this memorandum summarizes the initial test results obtained from the project called Pandora. The extremely sensitive nature of these results obtained to date and their impact on national security has resulted in establishing a special access category for all data results and analyses under the codename Bizarre. The codename is unclassified. Results can only be discussed with or conveyed to individuals cleared for the special access through Mr. Daniel J. Sullivan of ARPA. Now, this is the summary of what's going on there. The most important results obtained to date after 28 days, not continuous, of radiation of a primate at 5 milliwatts per centimeter squared with a simulated Moscow signal have been 2 repeative complete slowdowns and stoppages of the monkey in carrying out his test work function. So let me just rephrase that in an accurate way. What I believe they're stating here is the American embassy in Moscow has been radiated with a low-level electromagnetic signal on basically a consistent basis. They're asserting that the Russians are essentially using a microwave weapon to microwave the Americans within the American embassy. So what they did is they tried to replicate that. How does electromagnetic radiation affect man? We kind of have to know. After all, they're using a fucking microwave weapon against our men in the American embassy in Moscow. So let's figure it out. ARPA, you're coming with me. Let's get the show on the road. Let's figure this out together, right? So now what they did was, okay, let's figure out the contents, the character, the nature of the Moscow signal. What's the frequency? What's the power level? What's the intensity? What's the whatever the verbiage, the jargon would be, right? So what they say is the most important results obtained to date on this, after they replicated the Moscow signals and used it for 28 days, right? That radiation. They tested it on a primate. Let's see how badly, if at all, it affects a primate. So they did that for 28 days, exposing this primate to electromagnetic radiation. But specifically, I believe they're saying, 5 milliwatts. I believe that's per centimeter squared. You can check me on that. With basically a signal that's identical to the Moscow signal or the electromagnetic radiation attack, right? And what they're saying is, what they noticed is they witnessed complete slowdowns and stoppages of the monkey in carrying out his test work functions. So in other words, it incapacitated the primate. Because of being irradiated from the electromagnetic radiations being sent into his body by the researchers, after a while it just simply could no longer perform its functions, its work functions. The monkey works 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. At stoppage, the data strongly suggests the monkey went into deep sleep. The second breakdown occurred sooner than the first, indicating that pre-stressing due to the radiation environment had occurred. There is no question that penetration of the central nervous system has been achieved, either directly or indirectly, into that portion of the brain concerned with the changes in the work functions and the effects observed. So they say there's no question, right, that this radiation has penetrated the central nervous system of the primate in this experiment. Now, they go on, events leading to these breakdowns were as follows. On the 12th day of radiation, 10 hours a day of it, a definite slowdown was recorded in the monkey's ability to time his work functions. On the 13th day of the radiation, the monkey further degraded and finally just stopped working entirely. For the next 2 days of radiation, the monkey's condition remained unchanged. Complete stoppage, no work at all, right? At which time the radiation was terminated. So they decided, let's loosen up on the radiation, let's stop for a moment. There's been complete stoppage, it's been a couple of days. So ARPA stops the radiation. 3 days later, 3 days without the radiation, the monkey returned to normal operation in his work functions. For 5 additional days without radiation, the monkey maintained a normal work pattern. Radiation was turned on after this period, and after 8 days of radiation slowdown in work function was again recorded. So let me repeat that. Radiation was turned back on after this period of no radiation. And after 8 days of the radiation again, slowdown in work functions was again recorded in the primate. On the 10th day of radiation, complete stoppage occurred. The stoppage continued for the next 3 days, at which time the radiation was again terminated. The next 2 days of recordings, up to December 15th, 1966, reveal the monkey had not returned to normal. At all times, they say, when the monkey ceased to respond, the measured deep core temperature dropped to 1.2 to 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit from normal with a latency of 30 to 60 minutes. Heavy jargon there. Here, skip that. The last part is part 3, detailed technical discussions. This is the signal. Paragraph 1, the radiation intensity on our Moscow embassy exceeds by a factor of about 100 the safety level specified in Soviet microwave specification standards, specifically 10 microwatts per centimeter squared, not to exceed 1 milliwatt per centimeter squared for short periods of time, in between 15 to 20 minutes. The average steady level within the Moscow embassy has been measured at values in excess of 1 milliwatt per centimeter squared. The U.S. safety standard is 10 milliwatts. Large amounts of Soviet technical literature discuss non-thermal, neurophysiological, and neurocirculatory effects of microwave radiation at levels below the U.S. accepted standard. There has been essentially no U.S. data covering the Soviet area of investigation. It's really interesting because the Soviets, some of the documents we're going to be examining, either in this part, like I said, I'm just keeping this brief. It's late here, it's almost midnight. I just wanted to share this document with you. I think it's really cool. What was I saying here? Yeah, I didn't know this. I knew they were sort of into it, but it goes kind of in line with their whole mind control brainwashing programs, right? The MK Ultra, the CIA says, listen, the only reason we did all this mind control riff-raff shenanigans with you and had to experiment on your bodies and stuff is because we were scared. We were scared of the Soviets at the time, right? The big bad Soviets, that fear-mongering campaign. And it's not even just the Soviets, it's we're scared of the opponent mastering the art of brainwashing before we were. But once again, if we're talking about microwave weapons, directed energy weapons, and this new generation of weapons, you're going to see that it very much affects the mind in a serious way, right? You might not be able to see that here when we're talking about a primate simply just breaking down and stopping their work when being irradiated with electromagnetic radiation. But when you start looking into other things that have happened in previous years, recent years, in fact, and is somewhat brand new, just came out of nowhere around sometime in 2016, you might know it as Havana syndrome, you'll see very much that it attacks and affects the mind in a very negative way. So if you're able to incapacitate large swaths of the population, or even targeted individuals, specific people, with an invisible weapon that you cannot sense, that you don't even know is there, that makes no noise, that leaves no odor, that leaves no trail, especially if you can make it small and mobile, then you've got a real issue on your hands, and you need to immediately innovate ways in which to defend you, yourself, buildings, and people, personnel, military personnel, from it. Simple as that. But you also, just because you can defend from it doesn't make you better than the opponent. You also want to master the offensive capabilities of this technology, and you want to get a monopoly on that. So when they say, that we, as of 1966, that we didn't really look into the Soviet microwave weapon radiation programs, I just thought that was kind of interesting. Maybe it's kind of early still at that time, but I don't know, just seeing where we are now with just now directed energy weapons becoming a thing. This is becoming more popular. There's been executive orders a few years ago that essentially for the first time centralized the development of directed energy weapons, or not even weapons, but just directed energy platforms. Like that was under Trump, and it happened sometime around either 2017 or 2018. What happened was Trump made an executive order that basically took all these separate, disparate agencies researching directed energy technology, and he did, and I'm kind of butchering it, but it's the same idea. He basically centralized it all, connected them all, where they have like a centralized overseeing entity that drives progress in a certain way, logs progress. In other words, they're streamlining the process, getting it organized so it can be taken on head on more officially. And you're going to actually, as a matter of fact, let me just show it to you now while I'm talking about it, because it's a big thing. As a matter of fact, look at the date on this. This is September 12th, 2022. This is just 6 days ago. Defense Primer, Directed Energy Weapons, Congressional Research Service, informing the legislative debate since 1914. And this is the In Focus series, September 12th, 2022. Once again, looks like directed energy weapons are a big thing. But don't let me tell you, just listen to them. Both the 2018 National Defense Strategy and the House Armed Services Committee's bipartisan Future of Defense Task Force report have identified directed energy as a technology that could have a significant impact on U.S. national security in the years to come. As the Department of Defense continues to invest in directed energy weapons, Congress may consider implications for defense authorizations, appropriations, and oversight, right? So we're kind of eking towards that threshold there, right? Because it's not like there's widespread deployment of directed energy weapons platforms across the world. I mean, China is messing with them, of course. They're currently, at the moment, they've been really good at developing satellite-based directed energy weapon system, right? In other words, like beams, lasers of weapons of some sort that are able to disable, or what they call dazzle, satellite systems, right? Which, by the way, moving forward will also get smaller and smaller. These stationary geospatial, or whatever they are, satellites are kind of going to be a thing of the past. We're going to be looking at more like satellite nets, swarms, things that are interconnected, sort of like an artificial skin in a way. I forget who it was that said that. I know Burmis covered a video on that recently. They're sort of developing this electronic skin that'll use these little satellites that sort of envelops the globe in this electronic connectivity skin. But I digress. The point is, directed energy weapons are able to handle that and confront that threat, right? Or remove our satellites from the sky. So China's been really good at that. I was looking into that a little bit earlier. Turkey has actually claimed to have a directed energy weapon in use, and if they aren't full of shit and just trying to act stronger than they are, that would have actually, I think, been as far as I'm concerned, I mean, it's on the record as being the first use of directed energy weapons technology in combat, I believe. We'll take a look at that if I remember, but yeah, just look it up. I forget the name of the weapons that were used, but yeah, that's what I think. That was 2015 maybe. Turkey claimed to have achieved that. So anyway, directed energy weapons are those using concentrated electromagnetic energy rather than kinetic energy, like bombs, missiles, ballistic missiles, nukes. And the goal, obviously, it's going to incapacitate, damage, disable, or destroy enemy equipment, facilities, and or personnel. And that's the thing. The strength of these weapons is highly customizable in the sense of, like, depending on the frequency, depending on how many hertz or whatever the fuck like I said, I don't know the jargon. I'm just saying that you can make a low-level thing where you end up getting something like Havana syndrome. Picture it like a volume dial. Now, those people got fucked up, but it's not like they were vaporized or they melted or their central nervous system all sparked and fired until they died at the same time. It made them dizzy. It gave them, like, concussive-like symptoms. It gave them insomnia. It gave them a brief temporary stutter, language disruptions, things like that, right? So very cognitive. Remember, cognitive warfare is the future. We talked about that. We're covering the NATO documents about cognitive warfare and the new generation battle space, right? And let's think about it. How fitting is this to parallel such a thing? If we're talking about a weapon that's invisible and silent, it's going to have cognitive effects. Well, that's very much fitting into that new cognitive battle space that NATO has been talking about, DARPA has been talking about, people like Dr. Anthony Giordano have been talking about, right? So there's a lot of directed energy weapons. There's all different types, right? There's high-powered microwave weapons, HPMs, high-energy lasers, AGLs. There's other directed energy weapons too. I think like particle beam weapons are another example. There we are. Okay, so there's a bunch of different types. So we have the microwave weapon, which we might be thinking is responsible for the Havana syndrome attack. We'll end the video off with those clips. Some devices are described as microwave weapons. The microwave range is commonly defined as being between 300 megahertz to 300 gigahertz, which is within the radio frequency range. Some examples of weapons which have been publicized by the military are as follows. So the active denial system is an example of that. An active denial system is a millimeter wave weapon, a millimeter wave source that heats the water in a human target's skin and thus causes incapacitating pain through heat. It's described often as if you're opening an oven and sticking your face in it. It's able to customize for instance, such as a beam that's designed to sweep over large crowds. So active denial systems are very good for protest dispersion, small arms forces, combating small arms personnel and forces. You figure you're in a convoy of Humvees. If you have an active denial system mounted on the top, you're able to sort of get these people back by sweeping the beam over their location. It makes them feel fucking like they're burning alive, so they run away. Okay. Though intended to cause severe pain while leaving no lasting damage, concern has been voiced about the active denial system as to whether the system could cause irreversible damage to the eyes. Once again, that question of irreversible damage. There is yet to be testing for long-term side effects of exposure to the microwave beam. Once again, has yet to be testing, right? It can also destroy unshielded electronics. That is the other thing. We're not only talking about this new generation of weapons targeting military personnel, aka human beings, flesh, skin, bone, but we're talking about electronics. We're talking about electronic pulses, EMPs, that can wipe a city out. We're talking about Klaus Schwab level cyber polygon, but instead of the grid being hacked, it was actually a shut down by some EMP burst or a bomb of some sort, right? Which do exist. Would that be the likely route they take to activate cyber polygon and make it a reality and roll it out? I don't know. Anyway, there's another program here, Vigilant Eagle. It's a ground-based airport defense system that directs high-frequency microwaves towards any projectile that is fired at an aircraft. These are, I don't know if this is the same, but it's good anti-missile technology. So something like Vigilant Eagle is really good at, I don't know, taking down missiles, right? It was announced by Raytheon in 2005. The effectiveness of its waveforms was reported to have been demonstrated in field tests to be highly effective in defeating man-pad missiles. Yeah, exactly. Like I told you, man-pads missiles, which we kind of see a lot of in, I think, Ukraine right now, in the combat there. Bofors HPM Blackout is a high-powered microwave weapon that is said to be able to destroy at a short distance a wide variety of commercial off-the-shelf electronic equipment. So if you want to clear a room out and make them unable to communicate with the outside world and isolate them, if we're looking at a meeting of high-value targets, let's say, and you need to incapacitate them, capture them, exfiltrate, whatever it might be, you don't want them calling for reinforcements, calling for help. So something maybe like this HPM Blackout weapon, if they're able to destroy a wide variety of commercial off-the-shelf electronic equipment at a short distance, you sneak up, the covert team sneaks up outside of the house, the apartment, whatever it might be where these people are gathering. I don't know what the technology actually physically looks like. Perhaps it's something small. You place it outside in the vicinity, right? Because it is a short distance type of weapon. And then you wipe out the basics, off-the-shelf electronic equipment, cell phones, etc., laptops, so on. Then, of course, you've got this one here, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to move forward. So like I said, guys, look, this is how they finished off this document here. The Department of Defense has a number of DE development, directed energy development programs underway. And once again, 2022, they've requested at least $669 million in fiscal year 2023 for unclassified DE research, development, testing, and evaluation, and at least another $345 million for unclassified DE weapons procurement. For additional information about specific US DE weapons programs, see CRS report R44175. So the point is they go on to say that, this guy has been put in charge to overlook all of this. I guess, it's getting late. I'm a little sleepy. My words are not so good right now. All I'll say is that it's been focus on recently in a way that it previously has not, and that's because it is the emerging weapon of the future, right? So we have to prepare ourselves from this. If you can place these weapons platforms on a fucking satellite, right, and everyone's at the whim of this beam energy technology that you can't even see, it's not a part of the visible spectrum, you're gonna have to really be sure to develop those weapons first, right, instead of be the only person without them. So that's the end of this document. Once again, December 15th, 1966. It's the Advanced Research Projects Agency, ARPA. The document is titled Project Pandora initial test results. But guys, shit gets very crazy. I don't know, I feel like I'm dumb. I'm too dumb to understand fully, but I found this document here. Someone posted it up on the boards, but it's called Corticotropin releasing factor antagonist blocks microwave-induced decreases in high-affinity choline uptake in the rat brain. So once again, that's a mouthful. All right, and there's going to be lots of things that I get wrong in pronunciations here. So please don't be too rough on me, please. So check this out. This is really fucking weird. And I should actually make known that these documents, once again, that document we just saw was from 1966. Things could have changed since then. Okay, it could be that they've determined that low levels of electromagnetic radiation are truly of no concern, and we've proved that without a shadow of doubt. Undoubtedly, you can see the results yourself. Bang, bang, boom. That could be the case. My point is, this is a glimpse into the past, into history, about how they were treating it at the time when these things were truly cutting edge and brand new. All right. But this is some weird shit, man. I don't even fully know what it means, but I'm almost positive I do because I looked into it a little after. But anyway, this document, H. Lai, A. Carino, A. Horita, and A. W. Guy are the writers here. They're part of the departments of pharmacology and psychiatry and behavioral sciences and the Center of Bioengineering, University of Washington School of Medicine. We have previously reported that acute exposure to low-level microwave radiation induced changes in cholinergic fuck, man, I can't do it, dude. I should really shoot these videos earlier. My bad. Activity in the brain of the rat after 45 minutes of exposure to 2,450 megahertz pulsed microwaves at power density of 1 milliwatt per centimeter squared, average whole body specific absorption rate 0.6, decreases in sodium-dependent high-affinity choline uptake activity in the frontal cortex and hippocampus were observed. Guys, if you're not the only one that has trouble with whatever the fuck I just said, don't worry, you're not alone. This next line is the important part. Check it. We have reported that these microwave-induced changes in central cholinergic activities are mediated by endogenous opioids and may have important consequences on the behavior of the animal. Hold on. This pronunciation is fucking killing me. Hold on. Sorry. I was just pronouncing it fine before. I gotta actually look this up live time with you guys.
Cholinergic.
Cholinergic. That's so much simpler, guys. It's fucking killing me. Cholinergic. My bad. So microwave-induced changes in central cholinergic activities are mediated by endogenous opioids. Just interesting shit. And if we're talking about cholinergic activities, we're talking about some of the shit that makes sort of the fight or flight response. Here, I've got a paper on it right here. Cholinergic. Oh my God, it's happening again. It's happening again. So they just talk about neurodegenerative diseases because of the system being out of whack. That's what they're talking about. And now if we're talking about electromagnetic radiation inducing changes in those activities of the brain, cholinergic activities, well, that's an issue. Alzheimer's is a byproduct of cholinergic activities of some sort being out of whack. Same thing with schizophrenia. All sorts of, once again, cognitive, mental, neurodegenerative, neurodegenerative nonsense, right? But they're mediated by endogenous opioids, and it may have consequences on the behavior of an animal. And let's think about where we are if we're talking about endogenous opioids, where we're at with, in general, with endogenous opioids. What's the current state like with opioids at the moment, right? We've got thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people dying per year by, the pharmaceutical version of opiates, right? Opioids. The present experiment was performed to further investigate the neural mechanisms involved in the effect of microwaves on central cholinergic systems. We have speculated that low-level microwave radiation is a stressor, Thus, in the present study, we studied the possibility of whether corticotropin releasing factor, CRF, is involved in the microwave-induced effects, so on and so forth. It's this one is like just a real pain in the ass to read, but I just want you to remember this for the people that are out there watching that are way smarter than me and can pronounce this fucking word right, which by the way isn't that difficult. Think on this. Microwave induced changes, right? Activities are mediated by endogenous opioids in combination with electromagnetic radiation in the context of being used as a weapon. I just wonder, with a population messing with their opioid systems of the brain, right? I don't know. And besides, if anyone's a medical professional and like notices that I fucked all of this up, just leave a comment. I don't think I did though. Anyway, let's move to the next one here before I have to get going. So this one's interesting. It's titled Selective Action of Decimeter Waves on Central Structures of the Brain. There is no year here. I believe this is a CIA document, declassified. But it was written in the Soviet Union, May 5th, 1977. So being as this is a CIA document about Russian research into electromagnetic radiation and effects of that on the brain, that's probably finally 10 years after that ARPA document we just saw, when they started really paying attention to these weapons developments programs those Soviets were doing. And this is by a guy named G.M. Paravalov, Department of Pathological Physiology and Biophysics, Agricultural Institute in Odessa. So the main body of the text of this document is as follows. The dynamics of a commissural activity of a single neurons was studied to clarify the sensitivity of a number of central structures of the brain to the action of electromagnetic fields of decimeter waves, EMF DW. It has been shown that greatest reactivity to EMF DW is displayed by neurons of the hippocampus and hypothalamus, which a stimulated type of reaction. So this type of decimeter wave is primarily felt, its effects are primarily felt within the human brain, the hippocampus and the hypothalamus. And when those two things are affected, they're typically stimulated as opposed to reduced in action or whatever it might be. The predominating type of reaction for neurons of the particular formation of the midbrain and of specific nuclei of the thalamus is inhibitory. Inhibitory, meaning incapacitating, it's inhibiting you and your behavior. Irradiation of biological specimens with electromagnetic fields leads to manifestation and development of a combination of morpho-functional shifts, at the basis of which are specific and non-specific reactions. According to findings of a number of authors, EMF can exert an immediate action upon brain tissue. Some structures, the cortex of the large hemispheres and the hypothalamus, have been identified as the most sensitive to the action of electromagnetic fields of different physical characteristics. Now, other investigators consider the reticular formation and the hippocampus as the most reactive formations of the brain in general. One of the possible causes, that's not really relevant. So that's pretty fucking crazy. So here we have, once again, some people far smarter than me within, at this point in time, coming from the Soviet Union, Odessa, talking about decimeter waves and electromagnetic fields and how they affect the tissue of the brain, but most importantly, how they affect and stimulate core aspects of the brain, which would be the hypothalamus, right? And the other one, the hippocampus and hypothalamus. And if you want to know why that's important, why it's important that it stimulates those two regions of the brain, is, you might want to look up what those two things do in the brain. What is a hypothalamus? What is a whatever the other thing is? Just look that up, and you'll have a kind of understanding of why you might not want those manipulated in any way. So let me get on to this next one here. Okay, so we're going to end it off on this one. Give me one moment. One more moment. Sorry, guys. Okay, so in this document, we're talking about another electromagnetic radiation test on a rat. It's another declassified document, probably from the same batch of the CIA documents from the last one. This one's titled Hypnogenic Effects of a Modulated Electromagnetic Field. Once again, this is the Moscow Bulletin, 1977. It's an article by K.V. Sudakov, corresponding member of the USSR Academy of Medical Sciences, some other dude. Anyway, the main body of the text is as follows, quote, a study was made of the dynamics of behavioral and EEG changes in rats during prolonged exposure to a modulated electromagnetic field, which was of a 40 megahertz frequency, 50 hertz modulation frequency, and a 100 to 120 field voltage. It was found that exposure to a modulated electromagnetic field leads to appearance of phasic disturbances and conditioned alimentary and defense reactions to the extent of a cataleptic state. These behavioral disturbances are due to a change in normal cortico-subcortical correlations. They go on to say, in the course of our study of the effects of modulated electromagnetic fields on animal behavior, we observed that some animals presented a state resembling catalepsy with exposure of a specific duration or intensity. The authors of a number of studies also observed changes in behavioral reactions of animals under the prolonged effect of various other electromagnetic fields that bore a resemblance in many respects to the hypnotic phases described in the lab of I.P. Pavlov. Interesting. Clinicians have also noted development of states of the cataleptic and narcoleptic types in humans who sustained particularly severe EMF lesions. So researchers, clinicians have noted the states some humans display that were exposed to severe electromagnetic radiation lesions. One of them being narcolepsy, right? And cataleptic states. And then apparently, they also observed an effect that resembled the hypnotic phases described in the laboratory of Pavlov. And if you don't know who Pavlov is at this point, you're going to have to look into the guy and, get a grip on the understanding of how he created part of the foundation of the science that is serving as the basis, the foundation, the framework of the transhumanist technocratic control system that they are ushering in, right? Classical conditioning, the bell ringing. Think about school. Think about in school, when class is over, the bell rings. It's conditioning you to, you hear the bell, you get up, you transfer to the next class. It's very Pavlovian. And that's why public school is engineered the way it was, is because it's very, very much meant to be conditioning for the younger generation, to fully socialize them before they release them into the world to try to survive themselves. So it's very interesting that they mention here that the effects of electromagnetic radiation on things resembled what Pavlov saw. And if the main thing everyone remembers Pavlov for is the way he was able to condition dogs, and he revolutionized the way human beings could be conditioned just like dogs, well, I don't know, it just makes you wonder. Maybe it's a big nothing burger connection here. They might be talking about something else, but I am curious to see what specifically Pavlov witnessed when it came to the behavioral reactions changes that they're mentioning here. I do have more documents, guys, but to be honest, I'm just out of steam. I had to travel upstate for a while. I had to do some physical labor all weekend, chopping down trees and shit. I'm absolutely swiped. I anticipated having more energy. I was wrong. I was incorrect. So thank you for joining me on this one, though. Nice short video. Hope you enjoyed those documents, guys. Please be sure to share this video. Seriously, send it to your friends. Send the Rockfin link to your friends. Send the BitChute link to your friends. Really help me out, for real. Same thing with YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to me on YouTube. Let's see how far we can go and get that back up and running. Then very lastly, every cent sent over to me helps the show. It helps me immensely. I wouldn't be able to do it for you people that decide to throw $1, $5, $500. It really does not matter. Most importantly, what matters most is you here, you listening, you leaving the comments, and sharing the videos. But if you're made of money, you could throw me some. I'm just fucking around. Other documents I will cover tomorrow or the next day. They're just far too complex for tonight. I wish I could go longer, but yeah, it gets fucking weird. It really gets strange. I don't even know if you could anticipate where these documents take you, but you're going to find out in the next video. So guys, once again, thank you so much for joining me here on the Memory Hole. And I will talk to you very soon. Have a good one, guys.